For those that don't know, I do like to discuss things besides video games, anime, music, so on and so forth. You know the drill. But I have a little bit of a interest in finance as well sometimes. And I have a excellent credit score. So I figured, you know what? Why not give some tips on how to build your credit score, whether you're a newcomer or you have a poor credit score and you're trying to rebuild and get it back to a more average or above average score. So, of course, disclaimer, I'm no financial expert, no financial advisor, nothing of the sort. This is just me giving advice, just like I give advice to friends, family, and the like. Just gonna share it with you guys now. So just understand that your financial situation may be different than mine, may be different than the next person, and so on and so forth. But this is coming from my own personal experience, so every tip might not be relevant to your situation, and understand that. Now, first off, one of the biggest things that affects your credit score is making on-time payments. I know it seems probably common sense, like, oh, of course I should pay my bills on time. Yeah, for some, good job, you guys. But some people have a hard time doing that, and that's understandable. Things do happen. But I myself, I pay mine well before the due date just to make sure there's no problems. I don't forget, nothing comes up, I'm not able to access the internet, so on and so forth. So even just one late payment can truly affect your score pretty heavily. So you don't want any. Minimize late payments as much as possible. If you're having trouble making on-time payments, rather, because of your financial situation, my personal advice would be to cut back, if at all possible, on your credit spending or your loan. If you're taking out loans, minimize the amount of loans you take out to the bare minimum until you're able to get in a better financial situation. If that's not doable, or you have already tried that, of course, the next step I would try is to call the financial institution in question and speak to a representative and just try to explain to them your situation, why you're not able to pay on time, and see what they can do. Sometimes they just want to know that you are willing and able to pay, even if it's going to be a little bit later. Sometimes if you tell them, maybe they can waive a fee, or they can work with you, change the due date, accept a lower payment, whatever they have to do, and whatever you have to do to come to a mutual agreement and understanding. Sometimes people can't be understanding. Just gotta, give them a chance. Explain yourself. Um, Sometimes they just want to be informed. If your problem, however, is that you're just darn right missing the date, however, that's a little bit more of a personal issue, I suppose, that you just need to have a better memory, I guess is the best way to frame it. You need to, if you can't remember, well, get a journal, a notebook, jot it down, who you owe, how much, when it's due, the minimum payment, so on and so forth, how much you plan on paying, whatever you need to write down to, jog your memory. If you're a little bit more tech savvy, then, there's apps for this. You could use a built-in app, a third-party app, calendar app, whatever it is. I myself have an app for each bank that I use, that I have an account with, that I need to make payments to a credit card on. So I'm able to check and say, oh, I owe this much to this bank. Okay, open up the app, log in, payment, boom, done. Electronic payments are much quicker than payments sent through the mail. Like sending a check, that's gonna take a while. It might get lost. It might come up missing. It might get there after your due date, and then boom, late payment. So if I would recommend, whenever at all possible, to do an electronic payment. But that's just, of course, once again, my own preference. But I do recommend it. Secondly, another big factor is your credit utilization. Now, that is the total credit that is being used compared to your credit limit. Now, for example, if you have 4 credit cards and the total limit between them is $10,000, and you have $2,500 that you owe between the 4, that is a 25% total credit utilization because you owe a quarter. Now that is good because it is lower than the recommended credit utilization of 30%. Now you can get it lower, even better, but try to never let it go over 30, and especially not even higher than that. Keep it as low as possible. Now, if your issue is you have a high utilization on one card, or worse yet, on all your cards, then I would recommend doing a balance transfer. If you have one card that's high and one that's low, you could do a balance transfer, and you got to pay a fee, of course, but there you would take some of that balance and put it on the lower card to lower the utilization of this card, and you raise this one a little bit, but hopefully it'll be a little bit more balanced, as it says. Gonna make it a little bit more even, because they do check the credit utilization of each individual account as well as the total. Also, if possible, you can just start making higher payments on the card that you owe more to, that has a higher credit utilization, to lower that. If that is possible, then I would recommend doing that as well. Raise the payments for this card, lower the payments for this card, because you owe less. And once again, balance it out more, lower the total credit utilization. Lastly, and what I have done in the past, is you can raise the credit limit on your credit card. Let's say you owe $500. Your total limit at the moment is $1,000. That is a 50% credit utilization. That is over 30%. That is half. That is a bit too high. Get in contact with the bank, see if they'll raise your limit. Maybe they'll raise your limit to $2,000, for example. Now you still owe $500, but your limit is $2,000. That drops your credit utilization, since it's based on a percentage, from 50% to 25%. Once again, below that 30% threshold, and a lot better when it's looked at by these financial institutions. Of course, you have to be approved for a credit limit increase, though, so that's the downside to it. But basically, keep your credit utilization down for both your individual accounts as well as all of them combined. Consider using a card that you owe nothing on for a little while you pay off the one that you owe more on. And basically, just don't max out your cards. Don't even come close to it. Keep that in mind. Thirdly, the age of your credit report history is also important. Not as big a factor as the first two that I mentioned, but it is still important. However, it is not under your control exactly, so there's not much to really say about it. You should just be careful about closing out your oldest account, because if you have an account that's 10 years old and all your other accounts are a year or two, you close out that one that's 10, that will impact your score. Unless the card has like a really high interest rate, you never plan on using it again, it has a high annual fee, things of that nature, and you really just feel like you should close it out and it'll better your financial situation, then okay, go for it. But do keep in mind that some institutions will close out your card if you have not used it for an extended period of time. It has happened to me in the past with like 3 different cards that I just never planned on using again, so I didn't really care. But just keep in mind that that can happen. So sporadically, if you want to keep a card open that you don't plan on using, make like a small purchase and just pay it off real quick, Your credit history will just naturally go up with this factor the longer you have the account open. So don't put too much of a concern into this, but do just keep it in the back of your mind a little bit, when it comes to what accounts to keep open and which ones to close and so on and so forth. But basically, just keep your oldest account open is what I would say, and what I have done. Fourthly, the type of credit accounts that you have open is also another factor that goes into your credit score. There are 2 main ones: revolving and installment accounts. Revolving is like credit cards. Think of a revolving door. You have a limit, and you can spend up to that limit, and then each month you make payments. They give you a minimum, but you could pay the whole thing off if you choose. So it's just a monthly thing. You pay it off, buy something else, pay something off, so on and so forth. Installment accounts are more so like a home mortgage, a student loan, a car loan, boat loan, things of that nature, where there's one lump sum, and let's say they give you 50 grand, and you got to pay that off over the course of 3 years or whatever your contract says. You make payments every month for those 3 years until it's paid off. That's an installment account. Basically, having both open will be more beneficial because they like to see diversified accounts on your credit history. I myself don't have personal experience much really with installment accounts, just revolving. So it is not necessary to have both to have a good credit score. Just keep that in mind. Fifth, the number of inquiries you have on your history is important. There's two types of inquiries that exist: soft and hard. Soft are like checking your own credit report, things of that nature. It does not impact your credit score in any way. Hard, on the other hand, does impact your credit score negatively, so you want to be very careful with the amount of hard inquiries that you amount on your account. Now, a hard inquiry would be like applying for a loan, like a car loan, home loan, student loan, things of that nature, as I mentioned in the previous factor. That is a hard inquiry. Now, simply applying is all it takes to really have an inquiry on your account. So if you do apply, make sure that you're going to use it. I applied for a loan. I got approved and everything. That was a hard inquiry. But I wound up, due to certain situations, not using the loan, which made my credit score drop a bit. It has, of course, gone up since then, but it took a few months to get back to where it was, unfortunately. And you just want to be careful, because it would have been worth it if I used a loan, probably, but since I didn't, it was a complete waste, and I had to build back up. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to get more than like one or two on your account, and I believe they stay impacting your credit score for about a year. So just keep that in mind as well. If you don't have to apply for a loan or anything like that, just try to wait it out. Put it on the back burner if you can. If you can't, of course, that's also understandable. But this is also one that doesn't factor in as much as like the first two. So, prioritize well and don't stress out too much about it. But definitely make your hard inquiries count. Now, those are the 5 main factors that really go into your credit score. And one more thing that I should note is that you should definitely keep track of your credit report. Things like identity theft do exist. There's no doubt about that. All these data breaches and things like that, they happen. Hackers, it happens. Make sure that you're checking it regularly and making sure that there's no open accounts in your name that you don't know of, loans, misplaced or misspelled rather, like your name. Just make sure everything's accurate to you, and that your identity has not been attacked, or stolen. It can damage your credit score. It can damage your reputation. You just don't want these things to happen, and it can damage it for years to come. But basically, that's all. If you keep these things in mind, you'll be well on your way to achieving the credit score that you want, the credit score that you need, and that you hope for. Now, of course, that's not all there is to it, really. There are a few more things that I can go into detail, but this is the basics of it. Now, maybe I can make a separate video a little later on talking about some more things regarding credit scores, the factors, certain situations, tips and advice, and finance in general. But for right now, that's all. So, as always, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Click the like button. Click that thumbs up if you like the video. And of course, share it with somebody. Somebody that needs financial tips, credit score tips, things of that nature, that doesn't quite understand some of these terms that could be a little bit more complicated. Show them the video. If you have any suggestions or looking for advice or anything like that, and you want to ask me, ask in the comment section below. Of course, just trying to help. So, that's all for now. And as always, thank you for watching.